नमस्कार सबैजनालाई आज एउटा इन्ट्रेस्टिङ टपिक भनौँ न्युरोबायोलोजी अफ प्लान्ट डक्टर्स पर्सपेक्टिभमा आउनुहुने सबै बोटनिस्ट न्युरोसर्जन न्युरोसाइन्टिस्टहरू पनि आउनु भएको छ विद्यार्थीहरू पनि थुप्रै आउनु भएको सुनेको छौँ हुन त अब यो चाहिँ बोटनिस्ट अल ओभर नेपालले अर्गनाइज गरेको प्रोग्राम हो र म एउटा चाहिँ न्युरो सर्जन ले बोटनिस्टको अगाडि बोटानीको कुरा गर्न खोज्दा मलाई डर पनि लागिरहेछ तर पनि कति कुराहरू फरक आँखाले हेर्दा त्यही प्लान्टलाई पनि फरक आँखाले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ फरक ढङ्गले बुझिने भएको भएर चाहिँ आज म तपाईँहरूसँग चाहिँ तपाईँहरूको समक्ष चाहिँ यो प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्ने जमर्को गरिरहेको छु अब कुबेरलाई चाहिँ धनको बयान भने जस्तो चाहिँ नहोस् र यो प्रोग्राम चाहिँ विदेशीहरूले पनि सुन्नु विभिन्न देशहरूबाट विदेशीहरूले पनि सुनिरहनु भएको भएर चाहिँ मलाई चाहिँ अङ्ग्रेजीमा प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्नलाई अनुमति दिनु होला सो डियर फ्रेन्ड्स colleagues, today I'm going to talk about a common not a very common topic but curiosity among many peoples whether plant have got any cognition, perception, their understanding, their memory, how do they perceive light, how do they hear sound or do they make sound? There are a lot of things that we are curious about plants. So I'm going to talk about this from a doctor's perspective. I'm not a botanist. So, you can take it as a layman's perspective of neurobiology of plants. And if you have missed, if you missed my program, then this program will also be in the YouTube. We have a show called the Yeti Show. You can log into the Yeti Show and search for this program and then also listen if you missed during the presentation. So the first agricultural revolution, which happens about 1200 and so years ago, this is the first time human started departing from the nature, and we started, utilizing nature more and more towards our own need. And we domesticated animals and we domesticated plants also. And that made a lot of prosperous development in the world, but then that also caused a lot of negative impact and the divides of have and have-nots and lots of different wars and a lot of different conflicts has started from, the basis of agriculture revolution. And otherwise we were living as a hunters and gatherers and, we are only worried about today and that could have been a much better life. But having said that, I don't mean that we have to go back to caves again, but then this is something that we have missed. And also because of our own, involvement with the nature without respecting it in a better way, we have destructed the nature in a bigger sense. And recently lockdown taught us how we were treating our environment and how after lockdown we went down, but then the environment got better. And as in this picture, you can see that Kathmandu Valley became really, really pollution free during that period. So this is just because we stopped interfering with environment a little bit less during this lockdown period. I go to forest quite often. I am also a nature lover. I do bicycling and go to the nature many times. This is a picture from Chitwan National Park in Nepal. And when I look at this picture, then I can see that the forest is living on its own. It has got its own ecosystem. and it doesn't need nourishment to survive. It doesn't need a daily laborer. It doesn't need a manager. It doesn't need a political system. It doesn't need an economic system. And without a religion also it's living. So, pure Christine, just survival is the only thing that they are concerned about. But, uh, as we go on, if you look at this slide, if you compare the cell to cell comparison of the whole world, the biomass of plants occupying the universe, the earth, is 1,000 times more than human beings. And so it's big, very big mass is being occupied by the plants. 1,000 times they are occupying more. And without intelligence, without an intelligence, they would not have survived and grown and thrived to this situation. And 18% of the plant biomass is being eaten by us and the land animals, including other animals. And in the sea, it's about 30 times the animal biomass is more in the sea than in the earth. That's a very, very interesting data for me. So how long have they been, surviving like this without any intervention? As we know, intervention is destroying them, but then without intervention, how long have they been like this? So if you look at the Pando colony, quacking aspen in Utah, America, this plant is 14,000 years old. And so 14,000 years means almost prehistorical for us. But then they show no sign of dying pretty soon. There seems to be going to be living for maybe thousands and thousands of years from now on. And actually the root connections that they had have an age of more than 80,000 years. So they have survived 80,000 years, means that there must be a lot of understanding of the nature and the technique to survive the nature, which they don't shout like we do, but then they have it within themselves. And so 80,000, what does 80,000 mean? So 80,000 means it's before any religion was there, before any politics was there. And, just some of us started walking erect. So 80,000 is somewhere around here. There are some missing link. And so they must have been pretty smart to live like this. And now what's happening to the human beings? There has been a tremendous amount of technology. This is a graph of timeline and the times of accumulating number of significant invention is in the y-axis, and in the x-axis is the timeline. Then you can see that it has risen in such a tremendous period of time. And if you actually look at the recent development, then within within last 200 to 300 years, there has been the most significant change. And a graph like this is not healthy, actually. And I feel like this is going to collapse. It is not going. The graph like this do not sustain for a long, long time unless we intervene. So here is a computer chips on the tip of a finger, and our brain is also getting smaller and smaller, but then it's getting smarter and smarter. The same way, computer is also getting smaller and smaller. but it's getting smarter. So how fast is science growing? Science is growing very, very fast. The doubling time of a computer is only 2 years. So if you buy a computer today, in 2 years' time, the value of that computer becomes, 2 times less. So and this is in, the increase is in geometric proportion. So if you look at this figure, then it is again a J curve. We call it a J curve. And in 10 years' time, the computer is going to develop 1,000 times of what we have now. So we cannot predict future. So we can't say what is going to happen in the future, 10 years, 20 years. We cannot say. It is not possible to compare. We can hypothesize, but we cannot predict. And unfortunately, every patient that comes to me asks about their future to me. Doctor, what I'm going to be, what is going to happen to me after 10 years. So I say, I cannot tell. I don't know my future. I cannot tell your future. So coming back to the plant and animal, all building blocks of the plant, whether it's a plant or an animal or a stone or whatever, is atom and even subatomic particles. And there are electrons, neutrons, protons, and there is a energy that is moving, and there is quartz particle, different subnuclear particles. When you look at these, then plants and animals should have no difference. They look the same. And if you look at the cosmos like this in this picture, it also looks similar to me, and it is also spinning on nucleus, like an electron moving around the nucleus. And even the stones have the same, molecule. So in Eastern philosophy, in our philosophy, we believe that the stone also have consciousness. Water have consciousness. This has been told many, many times, and depending on how the water is being treated, it crystallizes differently. So in the same way, we think everything has consciousness. We believe in that. And this is because of the basic molecular structures, most likely. And we also, worship the nature. We worship the stone. We worship the river, the mountain, everything. We worship everything in the universe, So coming down to hardcore science, everything started from unicellular organism, the tree of life, and then it subdivided with mutation, actually, and into different organs. And then, plant separated, animal separated, and within the plant also there is, hierarchy of plant and angiosperm, the flower giving plants with seeds occupies the highest place in the plant kingdom. So, and then there is some organism which is disappearing, and there are new organism which is appearing. So this is happening all the time. So from algae, green algae, to angiosperm, from a unicellular, amoeba or whatever, humans and other animals have developed. We all know about this. So today I'm going to talk about, can plant perceive different stimuli? That is spatial information. Spatial information is information in the space, whether they know up and down. Down means gravity, up means sky, right, left, front, back. north, south? Do they know time? Do they know touch? Do they have no calendars? Can they read calendar? Do they have sound of their own? Do they smell? Can they smell? And can plant listen? Can plant talk, memorize, learn, or even predict what's going to happen next, and communicate with each other and pass this knowledge to the next generation? If they can do all this, then they are no different from human beings. Um, and if you look at the animal kingdom also, all animals don't do the same thing, you know. Different animals have different capabilities. But when we say animal kingdom, we say all these characters are within the animal kingdom. In the same way, single plant will not be able to do everything that I've just mentioned, but then majority of plant may be able to do, which I'm going to explain. Uh, so my interest in botany was, you know, by following this lady around the mountain, Vijaya Pant. She is a botanist, my wife, and working in Central Department of Botany. And every successful woman, they say that every successful woman have a crazy man behind, and I'm the crazy man who have been taking pictures, carrying our bag all around the hills. And then I started, you know, pondering these ideas. What about neuro science in plant? You know, I'm a neuroscientist, and how they react. Whenever I go, I feel like that. So this is how I started my study. And some of my knowledge are from straight from the jungle, but some from the book, and many from the obviously from the internet. So if you look at this picture, uh, you know, he's the past president Donald Trump. So we want to know whether he's a good man or a bad man, and then we depend on a search engine, which is called the Google. Google don't give you any informations. I don't believe in that. It just tells you what you want to hear. If you want to hear that Donald Trump is the best man in the world, then just type Donald Trump is the best man in the world. Then you have, you know, millions of views within less than, you know, 1 minute. So half a minute you get, you know, millions and millions, sometimes billions of answers. In the same Google, immediately if you type Donald Trump is the worst man in the world, then again you have millions and millions of result. So Google is not an answer. It is just a search engine where you go and search with a preoccupied mind. You already have a preoccupied mind, and you just go there and ask these questions. And actually, once you go in to Google and start searching, then they will hack your mind, and they will start telling you what you should know. So if you type, if you want to go to Bali and then type about Bali, then another century you will be followed by, you know, Google telling you where to stay and what to eat and this and that about Bali. And Google is not a place for critical analysis, because if you look at this figure, the left one is what is the most common thing that people searched in Google in 2020? Coronavirus, election result, Kobe Bryant, Zoom, and IPL. Okay. And if you look what they searched in the USA, then its election result, which was second in the world, came out to be one. And coronavirus, Kobe Bryant, coronavirus. So this tells you that the people that search the Google does not represent the whole world. It clearly shows that this is the replication of US search. The Americans people searching is being reflected on Google's. Kobe Bryant, many of us even don't know who Kobe Bryant is. He's a famous, I also searched for him, and famous basketball player who had a helicopter accident and died. Sorry to hear it, very, very sad. But many people in our part of the world don't even know Kobe Bryant. But he was, in both, it was the third person to be searched. So just to tell you that, I have not put all these information just from the Googles. I have done my own type of research. So if you look at this nervous system of human body, then we have got a brain-centered thinking process where everything is controlled by the brain, and then that goes to the central nervous system and the spinal cord and to the nerve all over the body. And if you look at the neuron itself, then the neuron has a nerve, the one axon and multiple dendrites, and the nucleus is there. And then it is an electrical signal that comes from here, and there's a synapse, and it connects with another nerve, and there are chemicals, structures that passes from one synapse to the other, and then another electrical signals goes down. And this is how the nerve signals propagate from one place to another. And the plant also have several molecules usually associated with animal nervous system, because these synaptic chemicals are very, very important. Electrochemical signaling, we call it. So nervous system also have glutamate, GABA, acetylcholine, melatonin, and serotonin. This is also present in the plant and also in the animal. But they don't have a nervous system with a brain-centered sort of thought that we have. But we can adapt to our surrounding. Plants can also adapt to their surrounding. And we can learn, they can also learn. We can memorize, they can also memorize, So as a person, we have, with the stimuli that we get from around, we memorize this, learn, predict, communicate, pass this information to next generation, which is collectively known as intelligence. And our brain controls the whole body. But what controls the brain? Nobody knows. Why? Where is the controlling mechanism that starts in the brain? Is it something above the head? Nobody knows. So in the same way, plants also do not have a central brain, but then they are communicating somehow. So I will give you a very interesting, from this interesting information. This is Savan Ranch in America, and this is a big, big dry area where antelopes are, these antelopes are left just like that. And then they go and graze and graze and graze. And there is very little water here. And so suddenly they found that a lot of antelopes started dying. Nobody knows why. Then they started studying what's happening, why this antelope is dying. There's no killing marks, there's nothing, but they are just dying. And in hundreds, they are dying in these ranches. And they found that in the ranch where there is more antelope were dying. This was a very, very surprising for them. So they did some autopsy on these antelopes, cut them open. There was no organ failure, no heart attack, nothing. But then they took out the intestinal contents and then saw that the intestinal content had a lot of tannin. Tannin is a chemical that is produced by a plant to repel some insects so that it do not get infected. But how could a plant with so little tannin kill a big antelope? It was a big surprise. Then they realized that the concentration of tannin in their blood was very, very high. So what was happening was this antelope was communicating with each other through ethylene gas. And then when some antelope come here and start eating, they produce this gas and tell the other plants that, oh, there are antelopes, they are eating me. And it's so dry and they're eating me so much that I'm going to die. I'll be finished. So before I finish, I must kill them. So they produce so much tannin that they kill the antelope. And they pass this information through gas to the another tree, and then they also produce tannin. And then the antelope that went and started grazing on those trees, trying to eat all the leaves in the trees. If they eat all the leaves on the trees, then they will die. So they have to protect themselves. They have the right to protect themselves. So this is a very, very surprising communication intelligence that I witnessed, and this is I took out from New Wellness Living. So as we all know, smell, plants can smell. Now we know plant can smell. So infected plants, if I have infected plants, they produce different kind of odors, methylene gases, jasmonate, salicylate like things, and which can be perceived by the neighboring plants, and they also know something is wrong in this vicinity, and they also produce the same kind of chemicals to defend themselves. Or this can attract, because a bug is eating the plant, this can attract a bigger insect, like in this case a wasp. This smell can attract a wasp, and the wasp will kill it, and then the plant is saved. So this is intelligence. If you don't have this kind of intelligence, then you cannot survive. So this is there. This is a photo I took from Orchid Conservation World Society. And is orchid the most intelligent plant? I don't know, but then it looks like that, because to pollinate, we all know, especially the botanists know that they will have the food reward system, and the insect goes there, and then they try to suck out the food, and then while doing that they get pollinated, and then they fly to another plant, and then they pollinate another plant. So there's a food reward they do. But sometimes they have no food, but then they show them that there is actually a food, and then these deceive other peoples by showing that actually they have a food, and then another insect goes there and then pollinate, but then they don't get any reward. And similarly, they look like a female insect or a male insect or whatever, and then sexual deception. So they think, oh, there is another sex there, and then go there and then pull it. So orchid have got this, is doing this in a very different ways, and I'm sure the botanist here, the learned botanist listening to this, knows this much better than me. Another is that the plants also are carnivorous, and they can also move. Their movement is different from others. Like this carnivorous plant is eating up an insect which just comes into it and then just grasp. And so there is a sudden movement. So these plants have sudden movement, and these plants have sudden sensation also, and then they know which is the insect that they need to eat and which is the insect that they should not eat, and they may reject. And like touch me not, which is one of the most studied plant, Mimosa pudica, and this plant also have memory and intelligence. Like if you Lazawati, we call it in our Nepali. So if you touch it, then it shuts down. But shutting down is a defense mechanism. It doesn't want to be kept shut because it's not a good position for them. If it is open, then it's better for them for for photosynthesis and so on and so forth. So stay closed is not but for a defense, it closes. But when it's raining, it doesn't close. So it knows, oh, this is a nature and this is raining. I don't have to close. There's no danger. So it can differentiate from a rain touch, from a human touch or other touch. So if that is not intelligence, then what it is? Again, there is research done by a very, very famous botanist, neuroscientist, plant neuroscientist, who dropped this toss-me-not plant from this height to almost the bottom, but not touching the bottom, just dropped it like that, but then it stops on the middle. And initially, the plant was so scared, it closed. And then when it was dropped more than 60 times, then it started learning that, oh, nothing is going to happen, They have been doing this, but then nothing is happening to me. So it stopped closing its leaf. Now it has learned something. It has memorized and it has learned. And then next time you drop it, it will not close its leaf. So there is a learning mechanism in plants that we can see. Another is a mechanosensor. This is behind this photo I've taken. Behind climbers, and so the climbers will touch something and then they sense and then they start climbing up and up and up. So how do they know how to climb? This is very, very surprising. If you think, then this is amazing. What is happening is one side, the bigger side, the convex side is having more multiplication, and the concave side less multiplication. And they keep on going round and round and round, and then catch whatever there and then climb. But if you stroke, if you don't give anything on climb, but if you just touch a plant many, many times on the same spot, just by a matchstick, let's say, then they start curling just like this, thinking that there is a match there and I need to grasp it. So it's a response to us touch, Plants sometimes don't want to touch each other's, which is called crown shyness. As in this picture, you can see that the leaves are not touching each other's. There is a clear-cut gap between each of the branches and the leaves, and which is called crown shyness in botany. I called it social distancing in COVID era, because they don't want to spread infection from one place to another. Especially the leaf-eating, this larvae, they can travel from one branch to another. So protect themselves, they make something like this. So this is a nature, intelligence of a nature. Now, Monica Gagliano, this is the lady here, and who did that experiment. She has written the book, Thus Spoke the Plant. So she believed that the plant speaks. And she has, in this exhibition, she has placed some kind of, radio wave that can pick radio sound, and you can actually listen to the plants. So the plant make a sound, the frequency of which is within our audible range. There are many sounds which are beyond our audible range, but they are speaking on a sound within our audible range, and their volume is also enough for us to hear. So if you go to a jungle and really try to listen, then you may be able to hear a plant sound. And they also communicate with each other by vibration. So if they can communicate with each other, then our noise, the day-to-day noise of modern activities of human beings, must be affecting and driving them crazy. They must be crazy about all this noise in Kathmandu. The the plants that is planted on the side of the roads, they must be the craziest plants. And out of all these, the roots are most sensitive to plant, and this has been documented many times by different frequency sounds, that the roots turns towards the sound. And it also knows where the water is more by the frequency of the sound that in the soil, the sound is different. So they can locate by eco-sensing, and they go towards the place where there is more sound, more water. So effect of music, can it really help plants? There are many experiments people have done. This is Dr. Vidya Chibukula from India, and he did an experiment where he there were different places where we put some markers, internodular distance, and then so that how much the growth achieved in certain period of time, the y-axis and x-axis. And this was different sounds, okay? And highest, this green one is Indian classical music, and red one is rock and roll. So it looks a little bit biased because he's an Indian scientist, but maybe he's true. Maybe he's telling the truth. Other people have also said pleasant noise, pleasant sound is good for plants, whereas noisy environment, they don't like it. So if you cannot listen, then how can they, there's a difference. So recently in Barcelona, the opera was closed for many months, and the first time they opened opera, they invited, gave ticket to a lot of plants like this. There was only plants. The listeners were only plants, and the famous musicians played very nice music to them. And then eventually these plants were given away to the health workers, frontline healthcare workers during COVID, thinking that these plants can soothe these peoples who have worked very hard during the COVID period. Very interesting, and looks crazy, but if you look at from a scientific perspective also, this kind of things looks that it makes some sense on what they are doing. And this is another
as the dancing plant, in the strict sense of the word.
here the man is making music and the plant is opening up, and then when the music is stopped, it closes. uh, so this is I'd like to play it again.
Commonly known as the dancing plant.
So this
In the
is a
strict
dancing
sense of the
plant. It's
word.
commonly known as a dancing plant. So these plants do not move like this if you speak to them or make other noise. But then if you give some kind of rhythmic musical, then they open up. So another example that I would like to set here is about gravity. We all know that roots goes down, and the plants climbs up. Here is a plant. This picture is given by Pini Pant, and here they have planted upside down, and because of the gravity, anti-gravity nature of the plant, this tomato plant has climbed all the way up. I don't know what's happening to the roots. So if there is no light and if there is no gravity, like in space garden. Then the plant can grow haywired. They don't know which direction to grow. But if you can create a gravity within a space station, or at least give a light, then the plant can grow towards the light, and the root will grow away from the light. And they tried many plants in the space, and the first plant they successfully, one of the successful plant was a Chinese cabbage, and this was actually consumed by the astronauts there. So no wonder, it's a Chinese cabbage. They are very good in marketing. So, space vegetation, they have also taken the lead. So light, of course, we know a plant has got towards the light and anti-light, but then a sunflower, all of us know, looks towards the light. And not only this, but if there's not much light also, the sunflower follows the course of the sun. But if it's a bright light, then it clearly follows we all know about this. And this is because of the light sensitive pigments on their neck, which makes them move and this is all a chemical reaction within the plant. So, like direction, can they know the calendar? Do they have a calendric? Of course, they have. We all know that certain plants grow in certain season, and in this picture, you can see that in Japan they have got the timing of cherry blossom, when the cherry is going to bloom. And they will say, okay, Fukuoka, March 12 it starts, and March 22, within 10 days it will be finished. No, it's a full bloom. It's within 10 days. When it starts, when it ends. So it has got a calendar. But how does plant know exactly when to bloom? Where is this, clock that the plant have? This is Salais fulubari in Siraha in Baisak 1. And then there is a foxtail, I think, foxtail, Dendrobium aphyllum, which is grown, which bloom there. Many foxtails grow there, and then a lot of people go there on this day. And this is very surprising for all of us, but they know exactly when to flower. But do they know time, exact time? So Brahma Kamal starts, opening up again somewhere around 9 o'clock. It reaches peak at about 9 o'clock, and then the flower is finished by 1 o'clock. So how do they know this? So all of these, all animals, all human living organisms have biological clock within them. Every organism have biological clock. Even the bird that fly from a long distance for many days, without stopping, they also sleep during flight, and they shut down one brain and keep one brain open, and they are flying from one brain, and then shut down another brain, and they keep on flying. And this is another flower which is in the morning, 9 o'clock, morning glory, 9 o'clock, and this flower blooms up. So it's called a circadian clock, or the biological clock, which is present in all living animals. And there's many other plants like this, which has got a biological clock like this, time to bloom and then time to go off within a 24-hour period. Do the plants sleep? Yes, plant also sleep. This is a study that was done among Albizia, or silk plant, in Japan, where they put the plant into light and dark cycles of 12 hours. And then these plants are sleeping and these plants are awake. So, and then for video photography, they have brought both plants there. This plant is of Albagia or silk plant. This is sleeping. So some plant may actually sleep like this, but some plant, they may not sleep like that, but then they may have different, ways of sleeping, just like the animals. So if we keep this plant into a open state, into a light state for many, many days, then it will just die off because it needs darkness, it needs sleep to survive. So that is another, similarities that I can see. And as we medical doctors know that we have active and passive transport system. Active transport depends on energy, ATP and ADP, high and low type of active transport. Passive is from high concentration to low concentration in a form of diffusion. So both of these are present in plants, and these causes action potentials, which is similar in us. And there's a variation in potentials, local electrical potential, which can be measured in plants, and there is a systemic action potentials, just like human beings. But they don't have nervous system as such to carry this signal from one place to another. It is carried in different ways, not in the form of a nervous system. And most of the time, when you give stress to a plant, it is harmful. Like here in a cartoon, this is a very, very nice environment for them. The cactus growing nicely in the desert. But the plant which is not used to this environment, if it's planted there, then what is their secret? Huh? I don't know. We really need to find water. So they are in a very stressful situation. Most of the time, these causes mutation, these causes changes in chemicals, and difficulties in survival. But sometime, like in this case, Dactyloryza pansaule, which is also has got a very high medicinal value, found in Himalaya. So high altitude, low oxygen, low temperature. Although they adapt to that environment, they also have high, chemical values, and these chemical values can sometimes be utilized in the form of medicine, which is being done. So, like bushfire, they have done a study on bushfires. If you have a controlled bushfire like this, which is also common in Nepal, then it helps the soil to regenerate, maintain its pH, maintain its carbon, and there's a lot of immediate sprouting. But when it is an uncontrolled wildfire, then there is a lot of damage to the soil itself, and even the shoot and the horizontal shoots that you have are also destroyed, so that they don't sprout up very easily, and the place becomes inhibitant to the plants also for a long time to come. But soil is a good insulator, and birds underground are well protected, and plants can survive fires by re-sprouting from basal stems and horizontal rhizomes. Again, another example of a stress given to a tissue cultured plant. This is a work from Vijaya and her colleague, and where the tissue cultured plants are given colchicine treated and colchicine untreated ashwagandha ralphia plants and withinia plants, and the chemical structures of the colchicine induced plants had more medicinal value chemicals within them. So sometimes this can do good to the plants also, and then we can utilize that. And by doing this, there's some mutation and new generation, new things comes up. This is a same chicken. On the left side is the chicken in captivity, the boiler that we eat all the time. And the right side is the boiler, that the same boiler when it is kept outside for just 1 week. And look at the difference. So obviously, we need to consider this fact in plants also when we are doing tissue culture within the environment. And usually the tissue culture plants, they go to the nature to be acclimatized, and I think that's a very good idea. And I think these birds also needs to be acclimatized, even if you need to eat them. The uh, natural lifespan of a bird is about 5 to 7 years, but then we consume them within 6 weeks to 3 months. So we are manipulating animals' life, plants' life so much, I think. Uh, Now, how do the plant communicate? I have shown you that it can communicate by different methods till now, and there's another very common way of communicating, which is called through the fungus mycorrhiza, different kind of fungus within the soil itself. And this is one of the scientists called this the worldwide wave, wide wave, and they can transfer different nutrients from one plant to another, support one plant. It's like a community living together, supporting each other, and then communicating at the same time. So there's a lot of study about mycorrhiza, different kind of mycorrhiza, which is, so there's a big network of communication and life below the earth itself. And this is again the picture of a root with the mycorrhiza, and a stump which should be dead can be kept alive by a nearby tree through interconnecting root system, just like this, so that they keep on having food even though they don't have anything above them. Or before these trees die out, through this interconnection of mycorrhiza and network of um, the roots, they give away all their nutrients to the surrounding, just like when we die, we give our belongings to our children. The same way they give away all the minerals, all the nutrients to the surrounding structures, and then die. So when we talk about do plants have sense, can they think? If they can think, where is their brain? So we all know there is no brain in plant, but they can work singly, collectively, or in a very very big mass, just like we just saw in mycorrhiza. They can communicate within the jungle. Thousands of trees can communicate together, and one jungle can communicate with another jungle. And here is a picture of a root which is elongating and growing. There is a space, but then whenever it is growing, it is trying to palpate and see where it is growing. And if you I don't have this video, I just have a picture, but you see that it is actually moving like this. So there is a structures which is similar to human muscles there on the tip of the root, and also the sense of touch. So, but this one, when the tip is cut, that movement goes away, but it keeps on growing, because the transitional zone is not cut. So it grows, but then it doesn't have that sense of feeling. So in this paper, Darwin said that the brain of the plant is in the root. And he wrote this together with his son, Francis Darwin. And had this picture like this where, this is depicting a plant, and that's the brain, which is the root, and then they are growing up. So this was the Darwin's hypothesis, and which is being proved right now, that the main thinking is being done, main intelligence is being done by the root itself. So now, do the plant itself, the totality of the plant itself, have consciousness? Now, if we collectively say all these things, bring this together, then this is consciousness, just like human beings. Then can we take out the consciousness from plants? So this is Annals of Botany. This is a research done in Annals of Botany, where this pitcher plant, the carnivorous plant, was anesthetized with ether, which we use in the in our operation theater. And once you use the ether, then they stop closing. Even if you give a mosquito, they don't close. So you can, and if you can anesthetize a plant, that means that it has got sensation and consciousness. It has got consciousness, because we make patient unconscious by doing this. So if we talk about science and scientists, we all know that science is not static. It is always changing. And it is not an ultimate truth. New truth is always arriving, and you will change your own concept 2 years or more, even faster. So don't be dogmatic. You should be prepared to be changed, just like a child. Science is not black and white. There's always a certain degree of uncertainty. That's why we all talk about p-values and probabilities. Scientists should be childish, young at heart, and always ready to learn and ready to question. Good scientists are those who know very little and are curious to know, especially those who can ignore memories. Because memories kills curiosity. And once you know and you have that in your memory, you don't want to go beyond that. And they should have some degree of synesthesia. Synesthesia means, you can smell music, or you can see music dancing or something like that. Different perception of, the stimuli. But if it becomes more, then you become a poet, rather than a scientist. And if you become too much, then you become a mad person. And some facts about our situation that I want to mention is almost none of the research is linked to finance, because big institutions, I think some of the research should be linked with the finance, so that the research outcome is converted into some kind of financial gain. Although it's not necessary, just to know maybe enough at times. And there is no continuity of our research. Each student with new students will do new research, and then it is not extended into the another continuation of research. So there's no baton touch race in our area. So this has to be improved. And we continue to rely on data generated in other countries with very different genetic and physiological and environmental background, and we cannot copy paste these things in our setup. And on dissertation, you get good marks if you do complicated research rather than simple ones. But simple ones are the ones that are the applied science that we can use. This gentleman, Jagdish Chandra Bose, a long time ago, almost 1926, he presented about plants have feelings. Bose lectures on nervous system of plants in Paris in 1926. So in our part of the world, we have people like him and many others We have done wonderful work in, and he laid the foundation of experimental science in Indian subcontinent, which includes us also. And if you look at our Eastern, today's lecture is not on, this, but then I just want to touch with one slide. This is science. This is Eastern philosophy. This is the distance of Earth and Sun, and the science says this much of kilometer. The Eastern philosophy, which is based on Hanuman Chalisa, calculated from that, is about this kilometer, which is almost the same, few thousand kilometer, and you know that Sun is rotating on an oval circle, so it depends when you have measured it. How can they measure so accurately? Many thousand years ago. And species in the world, the science says is about 8.7 million. We say 8.4 million, almost same. Albert Einstein says energy can neither be created or nor be destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to the another. And Krishna said in Gita, similar thing. He said that soul can neither be created nor be destroyed. Soul is energy, and it just transfers from one body to another. If you look at the unit of, let's say, time, 1 second is 1000 millisecond, 1 millisecond is 1000 microsecond, and 1 microsecond is 1000 nanosecond. And we have a unit of time where the last unit is Thruti, and 31 nanoseconds, 1 Thruti is equals to 31 nanosecond, which is this much of decimal of a second. So you can see how precisely we could, calculate time and measure things on its scale. And Vedic astrology can predict solar eclipse after 10,000 years. When will the solar eclipse, exactly where time, and from where you can see full moon or half moon or whatever. And so this is, very high level of science. Sometimes NASA even follow what they are, NASA used to verify what they are doing. And this world is full of illusion. And we talk about evidence-based medicine, and everything we talk is valued in terms of mathematics, and talking about things we can only measure. But we know there are many things which we cannot measure. We can only feel that they are there. So is the intelligence of a plant. They also feel the pain, they hear. And so if you look at this graph, then you can see that this is the spectrum where people can hear sound. But these sounds are only, can be heard by dogs and cats and, dolphin, things like that. And light, this is the only light spectrum that we can, very small spectrum of light we can, very little light spectrum that we can perceive. Others, X-ray, Y-rays, we cannot perceive. In the same way, all of the pictures that we see are inverted in our retina through the lens, and we actually are seeing the world upside down, but we don't see it like that. And taste is also an illusion, smell is illusion, and color is the biggest illusion in the world. Like a red apple is everything but not red, because red is being emitted and rest, red is being emitted, rest is being absorbed. So this is my last slide. This is Amazon in Death Valley in California, where there is no rain, so there is no animal, so nothing grows there. So they say, it's a dead valley, nothing is there, no plants, nothing. Maybe small lizards are there, and that's it. In 2004, there was a rain in Death Valley, and then this is what you saw. So Death Valley is not actually dead, and there are plants which are living there, and they can sprout out and then regenerate the earth again. And that is what is happening all the time. Whenever we are in trouble, plants have supported the environment in such an extent that we could survive. So we should respect and lead to, relearn to live together with them in a more environmental friendly ways. Thank you very much. And if you have missed some of this, then please go to the YouTube, the Yeti Show, and then you can watch it. We will upload it by tonight. And thank you very much, botanist all over Nepal, for giving me this opportunity, wonderful opportunity to talk. I'm sorry that I'm not a professional on this, and I welcome your questions if there is any, but not about pure botany. You can ask me about neuroscience. Thank you very much.